Stampers, this is Trevis. Today's Wednesday, and I know I promised you a Facebook Live tonight, and unfortunately, we've had a death in our family, and I'm unable to do the Facebook Live tonight. So, that being said, I wanted to record this for you ahead of time and just present it on Wednesday. And the theme, I don't think I ever told you the theme that I was going to do tonight. It was called 10 Old Tips That Are New Again. So that being said, I've been a demonstrator for 20 years, and a lot of techniques have come and gone, little tips. And I realized that a lot of stampers are newer, and they haven't actually done some of these old tips. And so I thought, well, if I could share that with you, a lot of them are very simple. I mean, you'll probably be like, oh, Travis, we knew that. We've done that, or whatever. But maybe some of them will be something you can try. So let's get started today. And I will just try to work through it fast, okay? Because I know long videos, are not that much fun. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a technique called tone on tone. And the stamp that I'm going to use today is this flower from Positive Thoughts. Positive Thoughts was in last year's mini catalog, and it has matching dies with it. Love the stamp set. I love this flower. So I am going to show you how to do tone on tone. If you don't, for example, if you don't have a specific stamp pad, say for example, Bermuda Bay. You don't have a Bermuda Bay stamp pad, but you really like the look of Bermuda Bay ink on Bermuda Bay cardstock. You can do tone on tone. So you take your Versamark pad and you just stamp on the cardstock. So it's going to take a few minutes to dry because this is that sticky ink that's used for heat embossing. But in the meantime, if you change your mind and you want to do some heat embossing, you can certainly do that because this is exactly the way you would do it. You would sprinkle that with powder and you would heat emboss it. But this is tone on tone. I hope you can tell. It's just a subtle Bermuda Bay, little darker image on top of the cardstock. If you did want to say, I did an example here, if you did want to do like gold embossing, this is what it would turn out to be. Okay, so you can probably tell much better the image there. But I love this technique, and it makes a great background. Okay, so there's our first technique called tone on tone, also called watermark. So you might hear people call it watermark. It's the same thing. Okay, the second technique is actually called spotlighting. And spotlighting is a cool technique because several times images are daunting to color in. So this is Country Home Set. This was in the holiday catalog last year. It's carried over to the big catalog. And love some of these images, but they can be a bit daunting to color in. I mean, if you're making Christmas cards, for example, and you're making several of these, it takes a little time to do the coloring in. So spotlighting is actually a cool technique, different. So for example, if you stamped the jug and you stamped the array of flowers, I think that's an artichoke, the little thanks inside the little metal, I think that's supposed to be like a little metal tag. Okay, kind of bland, definitely needs to be colored in, something. So I am going to do the spotlighting. I'm going to take a piece of cardstock and I'm going to stamp this image again, just like I did on this other piece of cardstock. So I'm going to use basic black. I'm going to stamp that right here. Okay. And now I'm going to use my markers. And I'm just going to use Real Red, and I'm going to use Granny Apple Green. And I'm just going to do a little coloring in. I'm not going to color this whole image because I'm going to punch part of it out. So I'm just going to color in the artichoke. And with this image, sometimes it's a little difficult to see. I think this is a leaf. I think this is a leaf. These are definitely little leaves. So I'm going to color these in just a little bit. So if you haven't used your markers in a while, get them out. It seems like with the new blends, everybody has gone to blends or, you know, another medium, but hardly anybody's using their markers anymore. I still love my markers. Okay, I'm thinking that might be all of the green. Now I'm just going to color it. I'm not going to color in this side. Okay, this is where it comes in. The spotlighting comes in, makes it easy. Now I'm just going to color this in. And I'm going to color the berries. I'm going to color this in. I think this is part of the bow. Sometimes if you look in the catalog, you can see it'll help you, guide you what to color what, because sometimes when you look at these, it's kind of hard to tell. Okay, I think that's good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 1.5 inch circle punch, and I'm actually going to punch out this part of the image. I'm going to punch out right here. Okay. And before I mount it onto my cardstock, I'm going to layer that with some real red. I'm just going to layer that on a real red circle. Unfortunately, we don't have a circle punch that's just a little bit bigger. I had to use my layering circles dies. Okay. And then I'm going to pop this up with some dimensionals, just a couple dimensionals. And now I'm going to lay this down over this image. Okay, so now you can see the spotlighting is basically the focal point of the card, and you can certainly stamp. So now I'm just going to stamp a saying. I'm going to stamp the Happy Harvest Blessings. I don't know if that really goes with this, but let's do it. I'm going to stamp that in, I need to use a different color. Well, I'm just going to stamp it in black. I don't have a different pad here. I don't really want to get up and get different pads. So I'm just going to stamp Happy Harvest Blessings right here. Okay, just to complete the card. And, you know, layering that, putting a little ribbon on it, something like that would really finish the card off. Maybe putting on some rhinestones or something like that. But you can see how much quicker and easier that is than coloring this whole thing in. Okay, so that's called spotlighting. All right. The third technique is called using your markers. I'm not sure what this is called actually. It's called using your markers in place of a pad, I guess. So if you have a piece of plastic, you can take your markers. Actually, I'm going to stamp the image again. I'm going to stamp this same image, and I'm going to stamp it on some watercolor paper. Okay, not my best stamping, but that's okay. You're going to get the idea. And I'm going to take some of my, that's watercolor paper, I'm going to take my marker. So say, for example, you don't have the stamp pad, but you want to color this in. You just take your marker, side of your marker, and you make a bunch of marks on some plastic and some more marks in different colors. Okay, and you can do this with a re-inker if you happen to have a re-inker. Then you take your water painter. Okay, bring a little water down in your water painter. Ooh, hello. That was more than I expected. That's what happens when you squeeze it. And now you can color with it. Yay, this is so cool. So I'm using my watercolor paper, so it's not drying really fast. It's actually giving me a chance to play with it a little more. And I'm just going to color these in. Now, I should make a little warning here. I did use Memento ink to stamp the image. I probably should have used StazOn because I am using a water medium to color these in. And you can see that the black is bleeding a little bit, probably a little bit more than I wished it would. But this is just to give you an idea of how you can make like a little palette. Okay, now I'm going to pick up the green. So you just want to clean off your brush, pick up the green, and I'm going to color in the artichoke. Same way. And after this dries, you can come back and do some shading. This is a fun technique. So I'm just going to splatter a little ink on here. Doesn't have to be perfect. And of course, I can use my markers and add a little more ink to my plastic if I want, if I run out. Okay, so you get the idea. So I don't know what this technique's really called. I just call it, you know, markers on plastic. Sometimes I come up with some weird ideas, I know. So, but it's a great way to use your markers in place of a pad or a re-inker. Okay, so that being said, I'm going to put that somewhere so it doesn't get all over everything. Okay, that was technique 3. Technique 4 is using your blender pens and just showing you how much control you can have using a blender pen. Here's another item that has been lost in space, blender pens. These used to be, like 10 years ago, these were like the most popular items in the catalog. Nobody wanted to use a water aqua painter, or now they're called water painters. Everybody wanted blender pens. And they're dual tip. They are filled with liquid, and I love them. And I honestly, myself, hardly ever use them because I've gotten out of the habit. So I'm going to stamp the image, and isn't that a cute little stamp? That is called From Posted for You. Love that little stamp. And I'm going to use my blender pen. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some color from my pad with my blender pen. Okay, so I'm just going to go like this, and I'm going to color in the bird. Ooh, pretty dark. You can lighten it up by just taking a little bit of that ink off. But then you can come back and do some shading. Here, maybe I'll turn it this way and then we can see it better. So I'm making little blue birds. And then you just clean that off by going like that. It's going to stain. The tip will be stained. That's okay. Now I'm going to use Old Olive. Same way. There's already some ink on here, so that's cool. I'm just going to color in the leaves. Now, when your blender pens are empty, I'm not sure this one's got a whole lot of juice left in it. So guess what? When this is empty, you can use it as a bleach pen. And talk about cool is you use actual bleach, if you can find bleach right now, because bleach is like a hot commodity, right, to clean with. But if you have some bleach, you can put a little in a little dish or a little lid, and you can actually use these, pick up the bleach, and then you can stamp this image on colored cardstock and bleach it out. And it is so cool. So you see how easy it is to shade with these? I love these. They're so reasonable too. You get 3 in a pack. I think they're $9, $10. And like I said, you can use them over and over. You just clean off the image like that, the ink. Sorry, I said image, I meant ink. Okay, so that is called using your blender pens, and also don't throw them away when they're empty because you can use them as bleach pens. All right, that's tip 4. Tip 5 is direct to paper. When I first started stamping, this was pretty much the background that we used a lot. And I'm going to use 3 different colors of pink. I'm going to use magenta. This is a new in color, Magenta Madness. I'm going to use Flirty Flamingo and Petal Pink. And a lot of times people are intimidated by this, but I think it's awesome. I'm going to start out with this pad. So you do need to open them fully to do this technique. Can't just open the lid and leave it open. So I'm going to hold this down, and I'm going to drag just like that. Love it. I still love it after all these years. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my Flirty Flamingo. So you could do this with any colors. You could do it with even more than 3. Okay, a little more. The thing is, you got to hold on to your paper because this wants to grab the paper, and you'll take your paper and pull it, and you'll end up with a weird stripe. Now I'm going to use the Magenta Madness. Hold on tight. Okay, so I have a rainbow, kind of, a little rainbow, and that is called direct to paper. Make stripes. So if you want to make a baby card out of this, it would be a cute background, little girl baby card, whatever. You can make Christmas cards using different colors. That is called direct to paper. Okay, the next item I'm going to show you is called a faker bow. And you know that hard time I have tying bows on screen? Well, you can do a faker bow, and it is so easy. All you have to do, I'm going to take this card that I had stamped ahead of time, and I'm just going to put a little adhesive on the back like that. I'm going to take this ribbon, stick it down just like this. Okay. Oops. Okay. And then I'm going to take another little piece, and I'm going to pull it through, and I'm going to make a little faker bow. Oh, I think I picked the scissors that don't cut ribbon so good, but that's okay. I'll make it work. Okay. Faker bow. Sure looks like you wrapped it around and tied it. Okay, so that is technique 6. Technique 7 is stamp your envelope. I don't even do this all the time. I don't know why I don't do it all the time. I used to always do it. I used to tell everybody to do it, and I don't do it that much anymore. So technique 7 is stamp your envelope, okay? But don't give away everything that's in the card, okay? So I'm going to use this image again. I can stamp this off. Probably should clean this stamp before I use it in another color. I want to use it in a color, so I'm going to stamp this in Cherry Cobbler. And I'm just going to stamp it right here. All right. So if I was going to send this card in this envelope, I would have that little image that I used, but I'm not going to color it in or anything. I'm just going to leave it like that. Or you could do it on the flap. You could actually stamp the part of the image on the flap so that people can see, ooh, this is a hand-stamped card. I don't exactly know what's inside yet, but I do know that it's going to be a hand-stamped card, and it would go with this. Okay, so that was technique number 7, stamp your envelope, and I need to do the same. Okay, technique 8 is called thumping, and this is an interesting technique. I'm going to use the little trees from Waterfront. So I'm going to use this stamp set. I'm going to use these 3 little trees. I have ink on my fingers. And I'm going to stamp it in, Sahara sand. So I'm going to use a soft color like Sahara sand You don't want to use, or I'm sorry, did I say Sahara sand? I meant crumb cake. Sorry. So you're going to ink up your stamp. Then you're going to take your marker, the brush tip of your marker, and you're going to thump it. So you're going to just make little thump marks all over. Okay. Then you're going to come back. I don't know why I picked this color. I picked Bermuda Bay. Oh, well, I think it might turn out cute. So I'm going to thump some more. All right. And then the last one I'm going to use is Real Red. And I'm going to thump a few little Real Red on here. Okay, so this is like a Christmas tree with a little red. Okay, then right before you stamp it, you want to, I call it breathing on it. And you want to breathe on it and then stamp it. So that is called thumping. And you can see that it is adorable. The tree itself was in crumb cake, but all those thumps made all these different colors pop up. And if you want to continue to do this, you want to clean your stamp each time before you redo it. So you would stamp this off and then clean it and then start over. You would do crumb cake again and thump. But I love this technique. And the bigger stamps, anything that's kind of a full image works really well with this technique. So you don't want a hollow stamp, you know what I mean? You wouldn't want to thump. You wouldn't really be able to like work with it on something like this, but you can certainly do it on a full image. Anything that's solid, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Okay, so that is technique 8. That's called thumping. Technique 9 and 10 are super easy. I'm just going to do those real quick. Technique 9 is how to make your own tag. And we have tags punches, right? But we didn't used to. And so how did we make tags back then? Well, we took our scissors and we cut off a corner, just like that. And then we took the corner and we put it on this side and we used it as a stencil. So that we got a perfect tag topper. Okay, so you can do this with, little stamps, big paper, little paper, big paper. So say, for example, you want it more angled. You can do it more angled like that. Flip this over, hold it down with your fingers, and so you get the perfect tag top every time. And then you can punch your little hole there. Got a tag. Okay, and then technique 10 is super simple also. You wouldn't believe my table right now. It's full of stuff. Here we go. Technique 10 is how to make a fishtail. So I use this a lot on, you stamp your greeting on here, whatever, but you want to do a little fishtail. So depending on how deep you want it, you cut up the center. And then you cut in to the center. Just like that. So if you want to cut all the way up. Okay, so you would cut into the center. Say I want to make it a little deeper on this one. You're going to cut into the center, and then you're going to come up from the corners and cut in. So that's going to make your fishtail. Okay, so I think that's our 10 tips. And I hope you enjoyed this today. I promise I am going to do a Facebook Live eventually. I don't know when, but that's our video for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.